welcome to Backseat Admiral, everyone. I'm your host, John, and if you can hear me in chat, let me know, and then I can keep moving along. Today is December 13th, 2021, and we will be talking about our Season 3, Episode 2 episode, which was Admiral Ozzel vs. Mon Mothma. So, just waiting for chat to catch up real fast, and then we'll go ahead and dive on in. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit shorter today. That's just one of the reasons why we have it earlier than I typically do it. My mom's visiting me in from out of state, so I'm going to do this and then head back to doing stuff with her. So, sounds good. Thank you, Maxwell. It is good to have you in our chat today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dive on into it. I'm going to talk about Ken's fleet first. He really didn't have anything he really wanted to change with his fleet, and I had a couple things, even an objective card, that I would change in mine. And so we'll discuss those things, and then we'll dive into the breakdown of the match itself, and go from there. So let's go ahead and take a look. So like we said, this is Season 3, Episode 2, and it was Ozzel vs. Mon Mothma. This is two MSU-style fleets, which I'm not a big fan of flying. I like big, punchier ships or just hardcore fighter builds. I did bring a significant fighter screen. It just did not perform anywhere near as good as I wanted it to. So let's take a look at Ken's fleet. He has a lot of ships. He has a lot of small ships for the Imperial. I think pretty much everything. Oh, thank you so much, William. Yes, we are super excited for the upcoming baby. It's getting closer and closer. Okay, so we have Ken's flagship with Admiral Ozzel. It is a Gladiator 1 class Star Destroyer with Captain Brunson, which is good to keep it alive because you get to cancel out of dice. Ordnance experts, auxiliary shield teams, assault proton torpedoes, and the Demolisher title. There's really nothing I have to really say about this ship. This is a good ship, and it is what it is. Like, I wouldn't change it. This is kind of how you want to fly your Demolishers. If I were to make any change, maybe not put Ozzel on this Gladiator because it wants to head straight into combat and be as close as possible to enemy ships, which could be dangerous if you're facing something that's not MSU. His next ship is an Arc-10's light cruiser with Captain Nita, so you can switch out that contain for an additional evade. And with that evade, then you can then use the upgrade card, turbo laser reroute circuits on it. It just kind of goes together. If you have Nita, you have TRC. And if you don't have Nita, you probably have leading shots. Those are pretty much the two upgrades that go on this. Like I was saying, I might make this my flagship so then it can flank around on the side without diving into combat. But you don't have to. Next ship, Raider 1 class Corvette. It has Iden Versio, so it is pretty beefy because you can cancel dice at close range. Ordnance experts to reroll that flak and to also reroll the black dice from it. It has quad laser turrets, which I don't really think is that needed because you're already a ship that fighters do not want to attack because of Iden Versio and being able to cancel out 2 dice that actually hit before you have to start discarding tokens or taking any shield damage. So you need at least 3 fighters to do 1 shield damage. So I probably wouldn't be attacking this ship necessarily with fighters, especially with quad laser turrets. Like, that just makes it very uninviting. The next ship is a Raider 2 class Corvette, and it has Admiral Mafarat, weapon battery techs, disposable capacitors, and heavy ion emplacements. Ken and I both really like this setup for Raider 2s. Being able to use the heavy ion emplacement at long range with its dice complement and then the weapon batteries to basically guarantee you have that crit is really, really nice. And it's good. So far, like everything like with Ken's ships, it's like, this is good. This is good. Keep moving on. Next thing. Also good. We got a Gazanti class cruiser. It has Darth Vader, who allows you to discard commanders or officers to reroll dice, which is pretty useful. So I'm going to backtrack now. Mothrat's easy to discard. Cool. Get rid of them. Ida Versio, you could discard. I mean, as soon as you burn through your evades, you could discard her. Captain Nita, as soon as he's done at the start of the first round, he's done, and you can just toss him too. Admiral Ozzel's technically sacrificable, and Captain Brunson, if you really, really needed damage, you could discard any one of these commanders or officers, and it'll work out. So that's a good card. And then you have Parts Resupply, which you can pass tokens out to. I don't find it as useful in a fleet like this due to the fact that you're all small base ships, and repairing's really not beneficial for a small base ship. You might as well be doing like squadrons or navigating or concentrate fire. I've talked about that before, that the ratio of concentrate fire is poor on bigger ships, while it's more beneficial on smaller ships. Same thing goes with engineering. When you're only engineering 2, like 1 shield isn't really going to make or break a lot of things. So having a token and only getting half of that engineering value may not do anything as well. So it's like, it is what it is. Okay, so then you go to fighters. And the fighters for Ken were Sienna Ray, Valen Rudor. This is kind of your very cheap, I want to stall you with fighters. And then 4 TIE Interceptors. So he doesn't have a big squadron list. And then you look at the end of the game and you're like, wow, he has way more squadrons on this than he should have had alive. And that is true. So we're going to go back now and we're going to go through my list. So I do have changes. I just exited out of the one that I wanted to keep. I do have changes that I would like to make, so I'm going to pull those up right now just to make sure that I have them. I think I actually just saved over my previous fleet, to be honest. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so Mon Mothma. This is, I think, the first time Mon Mothma has really been on our channel, so I'm going to go over her real fast with the changes with her in 1.5. If we did have her, she was probably pre-1.5. So when a friendly ship resolves the evade token effect, it can cancel dice at medium range or reroll 1 additional dice at close range or distance 1. So really, the main thing you're looking for here is that instead of rerolling at medium range, you can cancel it. So until a ship gets into close range, evades can cancel dice, which is awesome. And then at close range, you can reroll 2. So the only way to guarantee get a black critical off on a ship that has Mon Mothma is you need 3. And then they evade, and then they can reroll 2 of those. But then the 3rd crit is what hits. So this ship is pretty simple. It is Ordnance Experts to reroll pesky black dice. It has Assault Proton Torpedo, so if you get that crit, you can do damage straight to the hull. It has H9, so guaranteed that a blue dice will be an accuracy, which is really nice. Especially when you're attacking something like a flotilla or just blocking out a brace to help burn through tokens. And then Foresight, which works really, really well with Mon Mothma. So Foresight says when you resolve an evade defense effect, you can affect 1 additional dice. So that means at medium and long range, Mon Mothma's canceling 2 dice. Great. And then at closer range is rerolling 3 dice, which honestly, 3 reroll dice is usually going to end up being the same thing. But that's pretty fun. And then you can also shuffle shields around. So that's my flagship. I would not make any changes to it. It's pretty good. It's pretty lean. It's a flagship that only costs 114 points. So that's cool. Then you have a CR90 Corvette A with stapled on turbo laser reroute circuits, and Jaina's light, so you can't be abstracted. This ship get me a lot of use. Wouldn't change it. These smaller ships, they don't necessarily need upgrades, like to be stacked with upgrades. Like just a couple upgrades that are very, very key, like these 2 cards, are good enough. Or in this second case of this CR90A, just having the TRCs, good enough. If I were to add more, then it's like it costs more, and you're not necessarily going to get the benefit out of other upgrade cards on it. Like, what else would you put on it that you need? Like, this ship is just made to zip around and throw red dice at range, which that upgrade card allows it to do. And then I have 2 GR75 medium transports, and really I just brought these the way they are because I have not experimented with slicer tools really in 1.5, and I just wanted to give them a shot. I think it would have been fun if I went up against a list that wasn't MSU, because slicer tools would have been more beneficial. But like a lot of it, like as soon as Ken moves his ships, because he's all one command, like they don't do anything. So I did slice 2 ships, but I don't think it had anything really game changing. What I would do to change this fleet up though, hold on, I'll just finish the fighters and then I'll jump into that. So fighters, I have Kanan Jarrus, because he can do raid and he's rogue and he's 2 dice rogue, which is cool. And then you have 7 YT-2400s, and they are, I would usually say that they're just way more powerful than their cost, except in this game they really didn't do anything because dice didn't want to hit. But they're black dice against ships, no bomber, which should be 75% hits, which wasn't in this game, and then 4 dice blue, which is also really good. So what would I change in this list? I would drop 1 of the YT-2400s, so I would only have 6, and I would add in a VCX 100 freighter specifically to get strategic, so I can move tokens. That would tie into the changes that I would make with my objectives, which I'll talk about in a second, but I think that would open up a little bit more flexibility in the ships, so that my objectives, I could tailor them a little bit better to being second player. Then what I would do is I would make changes to the GR75s and pretty much get rid of all of my bid. Like, this fleet doesn't care if it's first and doesn't care if it's second if your objectives are proper. So my first GR75 I would equip with Torrin Far, mainly just to re-roll the dice with the YT-2400s. There was multiple attacks that all 4 dice came up as crits or hits, and a lot of times I just needed 1 extra hit to kill a TIE Interceptor or just do anything. Like, a little bit extra. And Torrin Far would allow me to do those re-rolls, and then I would put Bright Hope on it to keep it alive a little bit. And then I would just keep the other GR75 with slicer tools, just in case I came up against like a squadron heavy build with like an Imperial squadron build, or even a GAR or a Separatist build. Like, the slicer tools could have a good effect. But are we still rolling? Hold on. This air YouTube is. Hopefully I'm still rolling. YouTube's flashing up that my internet's not going as well today, so let me know if I'm doing anything weird for you guys. I am going over Wi-Fi. Maybe I just need a new Wi-Fi piece. Anywho, that doesn't matter. We'll keep going. We'll go to objectives. So the objectives that I brought. So Ken had initiative in this and chose to be first player because of Demolisher, which makes sense. And I gave him the choices between Most Wanted, Fleet and Bean, and Intel Suite. Most Wanted is awesome for me due to the fact that I can just put it. Yeah, see, weird that I cut out. Now I'm back to normal. I don't know why. I wish this computer was closer to my Wi-Fi box, you know, my router, so then I can directly tie into it, but it's too far. So most wanted is good because I can just slap that on a transport and then choose your most important ship, and then like the CR90 is gaining an extra dice, and even the MC30 gaining an extra dice on each attack. That's great. So I would totally want you to choose that. Fleet and Bean for this, I had an idea in my head, and then as soon as I handed the cards to Ken, I'm like, wow, this was a mistake. This is not a good objective for me. I was thinking because I have Mon Mothma, then I could like just straight out use my tokens more, but that's not really how it is. So this is the worst objective. I would switch this out for VIP, which is why I would change out that one squadron for the VX 100 so that I can move that token around. I think that would be more beneficial for me, so then I can just move it. I can move it to a transport, or I can move it to the MC30 because I don't want that to die anyway. And then I can just cruise off into space with the VIP, guaranteeing myself 50 points. I think that would be more beneficial than being Fleet and Bean. Especially because only one of my ships is Command 2. So all of my ships would only have one token, which is the same as the other player. So I'm not really getting that big of a benefit from it. And my plan is to actually spend the tokens. So I'm not using it for victory points. So I think VIP would be more beneficial as a whole. What Ken ended up picking is the last one here, which is Intel Sweep. And Intel Sweep usually is very good against fleets that aren't MSU. With it being an MSU fleet, this is actually a big risk for me because there's a strong chance that the other player could get the 75 points. We'll get to this when we get to the talking about how the game went down, but Ken could have gotten those 75 points and it would have flipped the game. The strategic allows me then that I can move tokens, so I can be a turn ahead of gathering the tokens compared to the other player, and then they're not as static on the map, or he moves and then I move a strategic and I toss a token before the ship can reactivate, which will pretty much guarantee that I would be able to win that objective. So the inclusion of the freighter is kind of important for my objectives. It's one of those things, like sometimes like you come up with a list and it works fine in your head, and then you sit down to play it and you're like, oh no, I made a mistake. And that was what it came to this objective. So we hadn't even started the game, we hadn't deployed, and I'm like, I already want to change my fleet. I want a VTX 100. I want to switch out this objective. Of course, I've already handed Ken my cards, so it's way too late to do that, but we hadn't put anything on the table. I'm like, I know I need lots of changes to this fleet, and so those are what I would change. So I'm gonna go up to the comments, and you guys can ask me questions about the fleets and things like that. I know a lot of people in our video comments talked about how if they were Ken, they would have chosen Fleet and Bean. And I understand that. I also understand why Ken didn't choose that, is because he thought that he could get the 75 points from Intel Sweep, or at least deny me from having more by either killing my ship or having us not both pick up the last token. And he was really, really close. But he looked at it, and we were talking about it today, and he's like, just because he chose a different objective means that we would have deployed differently, so the entire game would have been different anyway with Fleet and Bean. So that's just kind of the way I look at it. Then adding that frigate in with VIP and Intel Sweep, and then you don't want to choose most wanted. That's probably one of the worst things to pick if you're facing my fleet. Both of those things, it kind of helps me control the token game a little bit more and where things are. So I think those would be two good rates. Okay, so it looks like mainly people are just saying hello. So we have, for sure in the chat, we have Maxwell, we have William, we have Crom Gum, we have Luis, we have Anthony. And Maxwell says hyperspace assault would be a fun objective for both fleets. Yes. And it would be. The reason why I wouldn't put it in with my Mon Mothma list is I probably would want the MC 30 to be the one that comes out of hyperspace, but it's the flagship, so that. Or I could have the generic CR90 come out of hyperspace. That could be fun. But I don't know. Also, what's fun is the fact that you can move those tokens with strategic. So I did this once. I think it was at Gen Con. Someone had it. And I kept moving the one token that was closest to my ship so that it would involve him having to basically put his ship into a double arc in front of my ISD. And then the other token was under my ISD, so it was like, yeah, go ahead, put it down. Demo's going to come into your rear, or you're going to be in the double arc. So I just kept like moving the tokens along with me to put them in the front arc of the ISD. So that was funny. So just be ready when if you ever choose that and you have someone with strategic. You don't really see people bring a lot of strategic fighters a lot of times, though. So you don't usually have to worry about that. And if you see someone running a lot of strategic, they want to go second because they probably have firing lanes and that what's the other one? Close proximity sweep or sensor sweep or something like that. Blue objective. And they're probably running, if they're Imperial, Marlo, and you don't want to do that. So Crow Magnum. Okay, sorry. That's how you say your name, Crow Magnum. Cool. Okay, so let's jump into the way this game went out then. And I will show you the critical turn that really decided the game. So as you can see the objective here, I get to place 3 of the tokens and Ken gets to place 2 of them. So this here is my objective ship. I decided to make it to the MC-30 mainly because it can go speed 4, it's maneuverable, and it's not as... it has a stronger chance of surviving than, let's say, a CR90. Especially against Demo that could try to sprint across the table and obliterate me. Mon Mothma gives me the power with foresight that I'm pretty much immune to damage at medium and long range unless you have a very large dice pool, which none of these ships have, because I can cancel out 2 dice with it, with foresight and Mon Mothma. So I put it in a straight line. So my plan with this flagship is to just move here and then just fly sideways across the board. I don't even have to necessarily go fast to do that. This ship was always here, this flotilla, to try to move itself here to block off Ken's most direct path to this other token. This ship was going to move in and try to slice or do something. I don't know. This is why Tauren would have been more beneficial, because then I could have put Tauren here and it would have stuck with my fighters for rerolls. CR90s are just going to do what they do, which is fly around and throw red dice. Sorry about that. You have Demo. You have, I believe this is Mafrat and this is Aiden, with the Arc-10 off to the side. And this is one of the reasons why I was saying that Ozzel actually on the Arc-10 instead of the Gladiator could make sense. Because if you have Ozzel over here, he can just fly around the edge of this board without really getting into combat, still throwing his red dice in, still giving all your other ships the ability to change speed. While this ship is going to be like it's just straight in, like it's going to be a missile and just crash straight across the board and try to do damage. It has to be at close range. So if you're facing something that has like a big ship, you don't necessarily want your flagship to be close to the enemy because they're going to try to kill it. So that was my setup. Fighters. Move into the next. So everything got really, really tight really fast because everything was going fast. As you can see, like I said, this ship is going to come over here to try to block that. Ken moved his objective ship right here to pick up this. I did my quick turn with my MC-30 right here. And because of the way back and forth works is if Ken wants to move his Demolisher across, I can wait till the next turn to hold it here, and then my ships can come in on the side. And this is the turn that I should have done more damage to the Raider than I did, and I did not. So if we look at what I did to the Raider, let me see which one it is. Not that one. Cool. I did 3 damage with a total of 8 fighters that are rogue, all into the front, and Ken didn't even have to spend his brace. So we should have done more damage than that. The 75, 75, and then a double blue. So all of that should have been a minimum of 75% for a damage. So I should have, with 8 fighters, done... What is that? Let me find out real fast. Calculate, huh? I should have been able to do 6 damage and killed the Raider on average with the fighters. And even with the rerolls, it wouldn't really have changed it that much. Maybe plus or minus 1 damage with all rerolls being spent. And Ken didn't even have to discard all 4 of his rerolls because I just wasn't rolling hits. Yeah, that was very disappointing for me. And then his fighters moved up. Yeah, everything just kind of got into a position, and then we're going to jump to the next turn. So the next turn, you can see we picked up stuff, and demo rammed and did damage here. Fighters are doing fighter things. My fighters are all just slightly out of place, which is frustrating. I forgot to cloak Kanan right here. He should have cloaked over to here, and then he would have been out of flak range and pulled his fighters away, but I forgot. That was bad on me, which allowed him then to flak me. His, hold on, I feel like we missed one. No, this Raider moved forward, and then I blew it up on that turn. His Raider did an ungodly amount of damage to my fighters. It was like 2 damage, 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 2 damage. And some of them it was like a double Archon. It was a bit brutal flak round, which really didn't help me because I needed all the health I can against scatter aces with counter. And you can already see, like, I'm trying to block this off. So this is like the moment, because this is the end of the turn, so you can see into the next turn that the snapshot takes place. And Ken and I both are going to collect these tokens. So it all comes down to this last token, which is why it's so important when I was talking about adding that strategic squadron in to be able to pull that token away, is that Ken should be able to maneuver with speed 4 and Ozzel and a nav, which is why I moved Kanan over to put the raid on, because it was really important to gain access to this, because he goes first. So if he goes first and his ship's still here, then he gets to activate it and claim this token and gain that 75 points. But this ship here, my CR90 generic, not the Janus Light one, is almost dead. All it needs is really one more real attack into it. So this Gladiator could kill it, but if he does that, then I can come in and I can block him out. So it was really to and from that. We talk about it in our after action, and I think we talk about it when Ken actually activates his Raider and he goes to actually measure, which is one of the reasons why, you know, you can't actually pre-measure a movement unless it's during the movement phase. So Ken could have moved here, but he chose to move this ship first because he didn't actually see landing here, because I have this nice blocker right here with all these other ships. So he kills the CR90, moves it here, and then I'm like, I gotta go right now. And then I jump my ship forward, blocking anywhere that he could land in distance 1 of that token, so then I get to take it the next turn. Having a strategic squadron wouldn't have left me in this predicament. I would have been able to move all of my tokens closer to me, and then been able to try to activate before, so then I wasn't like almost chasing him down. Things just shoot at each other. Nothing crazy happened in the match, so you can see where my ship landed. So because I moved it here, Ken's Raider smashed into my transport and dropped back. But because my transport and the MC-30 landed right here, he wasn't able to land his Corvette close enough. Like, he could technically fit it about here, but it wouldn't be close enough to be at distance 1 of that token to claim it. So that's where the game really changed. But if you look at it, like, if you change the activation order, then I would have been able to activate my Corvette next and done tons of damage. So, like, things would have shifted around differently if that were to happen, and I would have probably gone after his flagship to try to kill it out with all of my ships then, instead of like doing damage into the Arc-10. But you know, it's one of those things, like, at that point, like, the game would completely be different, and you can't even say what would happen. The rest of this game is pretty much the Arc-10 and the CR-90 just shooting at each other, and my fighters dying as they try to do the one stupid damage that I need to take out the Arc-10. And it just doesn't happen. Ships fly around, some shots are exchanged. Then we have this Arc-10 versus fighter in the CR-90 battle that ends here with Ken engaging my fighter so I can't kill it, almost killing my last fighter, and the Arc-10 surviving. I think that's it. So let's look at the in-game score, because it gets kind of crazy. So I killed Ken's Raider, Valen, and 3 TIE interceptors. Ken barely has any fighters, so, like, I needed to kill more than that. He killed my CR-90A and then wiped out pretty much all of my fighters except 1. So that's like a lot of points there. So he killed a total of 166 points of my fleet. I killed only 116 points of his fleet. So at that, he killed more than me in this game. But because Intel Sweep is an all or nothing type objective card, I gained 75 points and Ken gained 0 from it, changing the score to in score of 166 to 191, MOV of 25.56. And that was close. Like I was saying, that if Ken did do the other ship first, I wouldn't have been able to possibly get that token, which is why having a strategic squadron would have been so important. It's like one of those things, like, you don't realize until it, like, literally hits you in the face when you're sitting down to play the game. So there's that. And then if he didn't do that, then my attacks would have gone against the Gladiator. It just would have been a different back and forth style of game at that point, which, like, it changes things. So yeah, it was a very close match, and the little battle between the Arc-10, like, I knew I was behind. I didn't realize how behind I was. It would have been, I needed to kill that Arc-10. I think with healing it up, it had only like 2 hull left, and my fighters, you know, deciding that they didn't want to actually be involved in this. They were the smugglers that were there against their will, and they didn't want to have fun in shooting anything. So that's pretty much it for the wrap up for this game. We both enjoyed it. I would definitely make those changes to my objectives and that one fighter, and I think this fleet would be in a little bit more sound spot, especially with that Tauren with rerolls on my YT-2400s when they're like miss, or the fact that Kanan, like, on all of his attacks did 0 damage his entire life against a ship because he was all misses, and then I just used assault. Torin would have really, really helped me. And it was one of those things, like, again, like, as soon as you start the game and we go into attack, and I'm like, you know who I really need? I need Torin here. So I really wouldn't change much with Ken's list. Ken's list is decent where it is for MSU. I still don't think that Imperial MSU is in a good spot, because a lot of their ships they don't want to be doubled up on. So it pretty much has to look like this with multiple of different ships doing different things. So I'm going to bounce into chat and take some questions from chat. So if you have any questions, get into that. And then I'll probably be wrapping up before too long. I know I want to address that. I know people have been asking me on our Discord specifically. I believe it was a question about doing something on defense tokens and another question in regards to objectives. And I will get to that. I just haven't had time to really invest in preparing for that. So that will be coming out shortly or in the future backseats. Life has been too busy for me to really do any of that. So, okay, so let's take a look at the comments. Yes, it was a very condensed setup, Anthony. But that's how I like to play. I like concentrating as many of my units in a small area as possible to maximize how many things I can attack at range to maximize how much damage I have. I'm really not a spread out across the table type of person. I never have been. So that's usually not how I set up. I know other people have success with spreading their stuff out, and people have success spreading their stuff out against me. I've just never been good at spreading my forces out across the whole table. Honestly, I normally end up playing on like a 2x2 little tiny square in the middle of the table. That's why I'm a brawler. I'm not a red dice from range type of person. I'm very much let's move in close and let's fight this out. Cro-Magnum asks if Ken could have shot, rammed, and then shot again and killed both. I don't think he would have been able to kill both because the other CR90 was full health, and Ma would have allowed me to roll 2 dice, so it would have just been really 4 black dice against a fully shielded with tokens CR90. So let's just pretend that Ken rolls jackpot, which is 8 doubles. 8 damage, 4 dice, so 4 doubles. I force him to re-roll that. It becomes 6. He hits me with an APT, and I redirect from the side to the front. So I survive on 1 health. So, no, I don't think that would have changed anything. Yep, dispatching all those YTs kept Ken in the game. Yeah, his flak really, really saved him that 1 round. I needed to get my point investment out of the fighters, which included killing that raider by the fighters, but I had to invest all of my attacks, which is super. I didn't even talk about this. I attacked my CR90 into it because of obstruction, didn't kill it, and then I attacked my other CR90 into it, still didn't kill it, and then I had to attack my MC30, so it ate like 4 or 5 attacks for me that turn before I finally killed it, and it almost still didn't die. Super irritating. But my YT 2400s didn't get anywhere near their point investment out. If I would have done more damage to the raider and possibly killed it the first turn, cool. Then we're at good ground. But I didn't kill it. Then Ken had god level flak against me, which put me way behind the point curve. And then his fighters, I didn't do anything against his fighters. Like, I needed to wipe out all of Ken's fighters plus a ship with my fighters, and I wasn't able to successfully accomplish that. Ken is saying that it was a quote-unquote camera angle thing, so it's just from his side of the board it looked different. But really, in Armada, you never are walking around the board, so you wouldn't have been able to see it, even if, because you don't walk around the board in Armada. It's not like, give me a second, I'm going to go see what things look like on your side of the table. And then he jokes about points. Ken Kaleri had a tactical victory point objectives. Well played. Yeah. My stuff was just slightly out, which is why, again, like putting one strategic squadron into it would have totally changed that game, because I could have been way more aggressive with other things, knowing that Ken could not have gotten those points. But I knew from the very beginning, that's why if you saw that transport, which was making a beeline over to try to block it, I knew that Ken, because of how maneuverable raiders are, could and should be able to get all of those points. That's why as soon as I handed him the cards, I'm like, well, this stinks. Yes, all my accuracies were on my fighters and none on ships, so I could not knock out those defense tokens. It was really annoying. It suited the match up for sure, but you wouldn't joust anything with a large base or two. So my theory actually on this is I don't mind jousting big ships with small ships when you have a plan for it. A lot of times big ships can only shoot once, so unless they have gunnery teams. So most of like Republic ships and CIS ships aren't running gunnery teams. It's really only Imperial ships and a few of the Rebel ships. So most of the time, if you just super stack all your ships into one arc, they can't kill you, and you're not taking extra damage from a side arc. So a lot of times I will MSU overload a hull zone so that I give you no attacks. Even like a ISD2 side arc, which is 2 blues and 2 reds, so 4 total dice, is pretty powerful against like hitting a CR90. So if I could just overload into the front and you don't have gunnery teams, or you didn't plan on using gunnery teams and you don't have the tokens, cool, bye. And that's where the transports kind of come in too. If I can land a GR75 with slicer tools in front of you and tell you can't concentrate fire, so you're not using gunnery teams, and I overload that zone on you, too bad. You can't shoot me twice. You can shoot me once, which is what you're going to be doing anyway, and then all my ships are going to be firing into the same hull zone. So that's kind of how I think about it when I'm moving and things like that. Okay. So I think I covered everything so far in chat. If you have any other questions, throw it in there. I'll probably take another quick look at it. This week, I actually forgot what's coming up. Give me a second while I do that and give you guys the juicy spoilers. It'll be 1 second. So this week we have a Kraken list versus an Emperor Palpatine list. And I think it's going to be a fun match. If you're a big fan of large base Imperial ships, you definitely tune in. If you're a fan of other MSU type lists, tune in as well. Ken and I actually, I think in this season, we have quite a few like MSU-y type lists, so it's kind of exciting. Other big announcements. Today is the last day for our Patreon members to get their fleets in for March Madness. With that, tomorrow, Ken's going to be posting in our Discord and also on the community page for how non-Patreon members can try to get fleet submissions in for March Madness. We're probably going to leave that now open for maybe a week or two. Hopefully that we can fill out all of our fleets that are needed so that we can start filming the 2022 This is Madness tournament. So we're really excited for that, and we can't wait to see what all the lists people have submitted in are. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow morning. I think that's really it for the big announcements and news. Let's see, what else is there? So if you haven't, we do have a Teespring so you can check out some merchandise with us. Speaking of merchandise with our logo on it, we have our own page. You can find the link on our Discord to Admiral Tater. Because Ken and I have been using new range rulers and special custom-made defense token trace, which really, really helped us out with speeding up how that works. And so you can check those out. They're really cool. I think that's about it. So I'm going to probably do one more look at chat and then call it a night. Make it a little bit shorter of an episode today, and then I'll see you guys next week. So, well, as soon as you see, like, if you've ever noticed how we do our data information for our slides and things like that, you'll be able to know immediately who's flying Palpatine. I like Palpatine. After we did our Palpatine versus Palpatine fight last season, 2 seasons ago, preseason, I don't know. It's been a while. I enjoyed him, and I've been working on different ideas for him. So hopefully you guys like this build idea. It's a list I didn't hate again. This is like the second time I've said this with Palpatine. It's like a list I don't dislike. Because he's not good, but he's not necessarily bad is what I'm finding. He's just not the best. Like, there's other better options, which is like half the Imperialists. Yes, Ken is right. We both really, really enjoyed Madness. It's one of our favorite things to do. So not only do we enjoy doing it, but then we also get you guys involved with us doing it, which is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to call it a night here. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening to me talk about our different fleets and different ideas. So leave me a comment on the video or any of our other videos. We try to get back to you. Like I said, this last week plus has been really busy for both of us, so I haven't been keeping up as much with responding to Discord or things like that, so I'll be better probably next week. So sorry about that, but we'll be getting better. So until next time, I'm John, and from Ken and Chat, we both thank you for tuning in to Ion Radio and Backseat Admiral. So have a great night.